Good day, colleagues. We are very happy to have another episode of Fluid Conversations, and our guest today is quite a remarkable adventurer. He is a young person who has started very, very young indeed. Currently the founder of two companies, Yellow Beast and its first spin-off, Nosesa. Yellow Beast operating in the clean tech domain, and Nosesa talking to the water solutions that are possible around clean technology. Somebody who has made an early start with his innovation and entrepreneurship, expressing this when he was still in school and being actually one of the laureates of the Stockholm Junior Water Prize. Colleagues, I am very happy to introduce to you today Pontsho Moletsane. Good day, Pontsho.
Good day, Dhesigen, and thank you for having me. And I am happy to be part of your audience in today's segment of Fluid Conversations.
Perfect. We're delighted to have you. Pontsho, we're recording this in 2021. And in South Africa, we are in a further lockdown phase around the COVID pandemic. We are in a space and time in the world that is, in fact, heavily burdened. We are experiencing very strongly the restrictions and the change in lifestyle associated with this COVID pandemic, which is putting enormous pressures economically around the world. We have pressures socially, we have pressures psychologically. Yet at the same time, it is also pointing out maybe some of the opportunities that there are in the world, things that we should have done and could have done so that we aren't in this kind of pandemic. What does all of this mixture of possible optimism within this huge burden mean for entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship?
I like that type of question. It is quite loaded, but I'll try and give my inputs as succinctly as possible. So one of the opportunities that can arise from this is if extra pressure is applied within governance itself, especially in the developing world, to allow for rapid innovation to occur. It has been demonstrated that it is possible. I mean, just at the onset of lockdown measures that were taken by several countries, competitions were sent out. And I was a part of some of these many competitions. And one of the things that was the transcendent theme was that let us develop solutions around this pandemic. And a lot of innovators from all over the planet have demonstrated that it is possible. And we're not only seeing that with innovators who are early stage or SMEs, we're also seeing this with large corporations that are in the vaccine development space, for example. And I think that as regards SMEs, we should look toward a relaxation of some of the laws that are around entry for SMEs, so that we can allow SMEs to build a post-COVID-19 set of economies that can aid sustainable development. And I'll make an example. I happen to be fortunate to be a part of some of the Technology Innovation Agency's programs, along with other startups in South Africa, and some of them are in the drone space. That in and of itself, supposing that we have got enough volumes of vaccines, could be adapted so that they can deliver and roll out vaccines to people's homes. I mean, we live in a world where almost every household has got a smartphone. It shouldn't be difficult to send a GPS location as to where you are, which can then allow an unmanned aerial vehicle to make its way there and drop off a vaccine that one can self-administer. But the regulations around unmanned aerial vehicles are still quite intense. And this is something that is a significant barrier to entry, especially for SMEs and startups, which tend to have a very flexible approach to business, meaning that they can iterate on their solution offerings quicker than most large companies and organizations in the state, for example, can. And That is why I'm saying that in and of itself, this is an opportunity to investigate that, explore that, and even act on it, because we can explore and investigate all we want, but if we don't act on that, then we're not doing anything. However, if we do act on that investigation and exploration to see how laws can be relaxed to allow SMEs to be able to build post-COVID-19 economies, I think we can have, sustainable development after this era has passed.
In my own commentary on the water sector, I've often said that we're trying to address 21st century challenges with 20th century technology and 19th century operating rules. And this is part of the reason why we don't get very far very often. So let's explore this innovation ecosystem. And you're right in the center of it as an entrepreneur and an innovator. You talked a little bit about relaxing the laws and the regulations, but what else is missing in this innovation system that is preventing us from grasping the opportunities that clearly exist?
I love this question because it leads me to a thought that we entertain a lot in the entrepreneurial spaces. And that is, a lot of entrepreneurs understand and appreciate that what is not missing is a lot of red tape and a lot of barriers to entry, especially with support mechanisms that can come from state organs. However, what is missing is also a broader will by the people in the system itself to de-risk SMEs. And this can be something that can even foster professional and personal development of entrepreneurs. For example, if we can involve academia, which I think there's already a start there. However, there needs to be a bit more work and consultation and interaction between SMEs, private sector, public sector, and academia. And also accreditation bodies across the career spectrum. We can maybe recognize entrepreneurship as a viable career, but also an agent of social change and economic change. And this is why I say this. Nosetsa, as a spin-off of the clean tech organization Yellow Beast P2 Ltd, is part of two global cohorts. The first one is in the United Kingdom. It is fostered by the United Kingdom's Royal Academy of Engineering in partnership with the South African government via the Department of Science and Innovation through the Technology Innovation Agency. And it's called the Leaders in Innovation Fellowship. We are the 7th cohort, and there are 14 countries all over the globe that are participating in this. Now, the importance of this and why I mention this is because when you look at an organization such as the Royal Academy of Engineering, it has ties to engineering accreditation bodies in the globe. For example, the engineering bodies that are in the UK that are affiliated with even the Engineering Council of South Africa. And I think because the Engineering Council of South Africa, as one example, is also entrenched in the academic machine to ensure that graduates, when they exit the academic machine, meet certain requirements that are needed for industry participation, that can be a way to actually then foster this that I'm proposing to say. This can be also an involvement of accreditation bodies to foster professional and personal development of entrepreneurs. And another one that is similar, which is based in the United States, is called the Clean Tech Open, of which I'm also participating as a cohort member for 2021 virtually. The time zones are a bit funny, so I struggle with that sometimes. However, the importance of that is that it has been running since 2006. Just as the Leaders in Innovation Fellowship has been running for several years, close to a decade now. And the important thing about that is that over that amount of time, there is a systematic way of grading entrepreneurial practitioners and aligning their innovations, even if they're not engineers themselves, for example, but aligning the innovations with engineering work. Hence, I think the bodies like the UK Royal Academy of Engineering are involved in this. And the importance of this is that because there are set ways of grading and gauging the performance and growth of startups, it can be used as a template to introduce to the academic machine so that we can start introducing graduates to this thing of entrepreneurship who can even post graduating perform as entrepreneurs in large organizations of the state, for example, because that entrepreneurship knowledge can allow someone to assume risk within a bigger organization, which can allow them to introduce new divisions, foster innovation faster, etc. That is something that we contemplate and talk about quite frequently in this space. And I think that is something that is missing a lot.
I want to start talking about your journey a little bit. And then I want to return to this issue about the innovation ecosystem and the triggers a little bit later. I have found your story quite fascinating. And I've known you for a little while, when the hair was a little bit less gray. And the thing that jumped out at me is that you haven't gone through a much more classical intellectual path around innovation, but it's been there in your gut, it's been there in your spirit. You started expressing this even before you knew the science around it. In fact, it sounded almost as if the science had to follow your idea and catch up with you. Tell us a little bit about your journey, because I think people would really want to hear it.
Sure. So the Stockholm Junior Water Prize and South African Youth Water Prize are quite recent, so to speak. I literally started participating in water conservation advocacy since I was much younger. I remember participating at an event in Harib Dam when I was just starting high school. And I remember we got certificates from the then Minister of Water Affairs and Forestry, who was Mr. Ronnie Casseroles. I'm sure you remember him. That was quite a while back. So there were those spaces that one has found himself participating in. And being someone who has been passionate about articulating his ideas, participating in platforms such as debating throughout high school, and then later on in university, volunteering in such organizations as the South African Institution of Civil Engineering, as well as carrying on with debating, I think that also developed a sense in my person to then pursue innovation on a more full-time basis, so to speak, because I realized that I am able to take on risks personally to see to a good cause being allowed to manifest. And I'm humbled actually by the introduction you gave to just this part of the segment to say that it is something that seems as though the science had to follow me, or rather this path that I'm on. And one of the things that I would say is remarkable about that is that there have been very frustrating times when one would have to present their idea and realize that not a lot of people are familiar with this way of thinking. And you start questioning yourself. And this happens a lot of the time with a lot of entrepreneurs, where you start doubting because maybe there's a reluctancy to adopt your idea. It doesn't catch fire like a TikTok video that goes viral. And you start wondering, am I doing something wrong? Is this the right path for me? And then you realize when you go into the mainstream side of things that, okay, I'm not having success there, but something has changed in the space that I was in, and there are more opportunities now that can accommodate this way of thinking. And then you pursue it, and then you realize, oh, okay, cool. This seems to work out. So this is something that I can say, if anything, it has led to a face-off with self, and it is something where you consistently have to question even your own beliefs, let alone wondering if the beliefs of others are aligned with yours. And as you go through that as an individual, and a lot of entrepreneurs would likely be coherent with this pattern of thought, it is to say that a lot of entrepreneurs invest themselves in their ideas. There's one lady, for example, who I have the privilege of meeting, was developing an inflammatory testing device for HIV patients. And they've invested at least 15 years of their professional career into developing that solution. So it goes to show, apart from me, the depth to which individuals who become entrepreneurs go to actually see to it that not only their dreams are manifesting, but also the solutions that they envision, that they believe in, and are also actively working on, what it takes to actually make sure that the process goes on, regardless of the turbulence that comes during the flight.
Well, one of the things that you put out there, and this is a very real issue, is overcoming the mountain of self-doubt, right? I mean, there are many, many people, more than most, that retain the innovation as part of their hobby set, as opposed to making it mainstream as you have done. I mean, you have organized for the innovation to actually be your career, and you've actually become a business person yourself and offer the opportunity for many other people to join you. And you would be by far in the minority. Tell us a little bit about that mountain of self-doubt, because you've been there, you must have been there. How do you climb through that? How do you organize to actually persevere for a whole decade before something sparks?
So one of the most prominent sayings around entrepreneurship is that an overnight success has about 10 to 15 years backing it, right? And in hindsight, in retrospect, one of the most exciting things about my journey personally is realizing, just from a simple call from someone who's invested in marketing, calling you and saying, hey, I work for this company in Cape Town, for example, and I like your idea. I think it's got great potential. This is the space where the world is converging towards. Let's collaborate. And then you realize later on that they decide to go on full on as a consultant to your cause. And not only that, they bring on other people who help with graphic design, who help with web development. You realize that you have someone now who comes on board as a research consultant in the agriculture space, and they bring on a wealth of knowledge that has to do with soil sciences, crop sciences. And you realize then on that, oh, okay, not only are individuals interested, but the state also takes an interest in this. You get organizations like the Water Research Commission recognizing your efforts and calling you a friend of their cause. You get the Technology Innovation Agency investing in your product development, and even getting consultants and private companies to help you develop your tech. And then you realize, uh-oh, have I opened a can of worms? Is this Pandora's box, or is this something that is supposed to happen? And then you realize as you interact, definitely there are individuals within the same group of people, as diverse as they are, regardless of their age, gender, or race, who are for and could challenge you to even think better on your own innovation. And in thinking better, I think that as an individual, you also overcome some of the doubts that you had, because you realize that, no, this person is not challenging me based on their 30 years experience as an electronics engineer because they want to shut down this idea and not work. No, they're actually prompting me to think deeper, to think a level extra, to engage the customer whom I'm willing to serve more and understand their needs more, so that I can develop a solution that works best for them, that can integrate with their workflow, that can help their work become better without taking away from them the responsibility that they have owned, which is to produce crop and think of nothing else with outside of the intricacies of counting the number of liters with a digital flow meter, for example. So you realize as you go through each of these steps that the self-doubt starts to fade away, not because the colleagues I work with and interact with challenge me to think deeper and better, but because in thinking deeper and better, I'm able to overcome some of the things that actually lay a seed of doubt in the other person. And it is in that process that you also learn to overcome the bits and pieces that shape your doubt.
That's brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant. I think that's going to help a lot of people to navigate their journey. That the self-doubt is the investment in the learning. The partnership is the investment in spreading out that self-doubt a little bit further so that we can work on it together and build the thing that we want to build. I really like that. I think that's really excellent. Now, in an interaction that we've had not too long ago with some American colleagues at the Massachusetts Water Week, I personally was quite amazed by the political investment in what I thought was a fairly localized state level forum. And you and I witnessed three senators who eventually joined us in that conversation, who almost got in as practitioners into that debate, trying to build up the solutions. Now, I think it's fair to say that that was reasonably unique because we don't find that in too many other places. How do we incite that kind of investment, which goes beyond the rhetoric and gets into the nuts and bolts? And this relates back to the triggers that you were talking about earlier and the too much red tape, that the conversion of the people who hold the red tape to convert that red tape into blue string so they can pull you along that journey.
I like where this is going. You know, I've noticed something that the Water Research Commission is doing that is quite inspiring, and it is hosting hackathons through organizations such as Geek Culture. But a lot of the time, events such as that are attended by people who are walking in the similar path as to what I have been walking in so far. And in lesser instances, you'd find, for example, a specialist in the private sector or in the government space participating throughout the entire event to actually get a feel of what it takes to come up with a solution in a space of 72 hours and work on it for the next year and see how that grows. And I don't blame individuals who are in that position. The demands of the working environment require an individual to carry or to wear a hat consistently. And that is also part of their professional development. And we can't take that away from them. However, we also need to acknowledge that red tape is administered by people. We need to also acknowledge that we, the people, are the system, are the gears, the nuts, the bolts that hold the system in place and keep it running. It is only when we start to make empathetic prompts that we can actually start encouraging high-level decision makers to take an invested interest in seeing to it that solutions are fast-tracked, red tape is acknowledged and brainstormed thoroughly, consultatively, so that we can say, okay, if we look at a 50-line document that says, these are the rules and regulations for making XYZ possible. And then we say, but let's think about these critically. Does line item 27 render itself relevant in 2021, given that education is changing like this, given that technology is changing like this, given that our mindsets are thinking like this, given that the socio-economic status, the political way of thinking is shaped like this, does this need to hold true or valid in the status quo or in the direction we need to take? We need to make empathetic prompts so that we can appreciate the depth of sustainable development goals, such that we not only need to look at them as fancy policy guidelines for states, organizations, and the like, but as things we can internalize to say, this thing impacts me in this way. And if I'm in this position to make this kind of change, can I not influence a certain white paper that has been passed in the state, in government, to change and amend it like this, propose it to Congress, and then make sure that it can prompt a different way of operating in the space that we normally do day to day. One of the things we can also look toward is how some Scandinavian countries look at education, for example. I think in one Scandinavian country of note, general education and training becomes sophisticated up to grade 7 in our equivalent. And after that, education becomes something of, here's a problem, here are people living in this environment, this part of the world, and these are the challenges they face. Come up with a solution, and this is your 4-5 year plan. When you finish high school, you'll get a diploma saying that you are able to solve these problems, you are this kind of problem solver, etc. There are games, for instance, the same people in Massachusetts, I'm interacting with them currently to get schools involved in the it's a form of gaming challenge that allows learners to be part of solution changes, sort of like Model United Nations, which I did when I was in school debating. But this time you have like a map that you lay out on the floor, and then you place yourself or your team on a part of the region that you're representing. And you're saying, oh, I'm in the Middle East. We're faced with this kind of water challenge, this kind of political challenge, this kind of economic challenge, this kind of social challenge. And we think that on our chart, where we can solve this problem, we need to look at A, B, C and solve it by doing 1, 2, 3. And then we can have item I, item I3 as solutions to that. So we need to look at the world in that way and also prompt, but also motivate ourselves to think about the world in that sense, to say, in the real world, we understand that these are our challenges. We have these on paper, but what can we do to ensure that we not only abide by rules and regulations that our workplaces entrust on us, but we can also pivot those, iterate on those as flexibly as possible by even incorporating independent thinkers such as entrepreneurs to help us with these, making laws flexible, etc. I think that when we have high-level decision makers being invested in the technical aspects of problem solving, we would likely see the kind of change we wish to see in the world, but there needs to be a personal investment in that. Hence, I keep touching on professional and personal development of individuals, because once that manifests or takes form, we're able to then internalize things such as sustainable development goals, such as human-centered design, and we can use those to solve the problems that we see in the world so that we can perhaps leave a better platform for future generations.
I want to know, given your journey, given how you've thought about it and clearly have learned a lot from it, what are your messages to new entrepreneurs? Let me call them new entrepreneurs, because they may be young, but they may also be a little bit older, but the newness is always there. What is your story to them?
I like the concept of novelty around entrepreneurship, because I think the root definition and meaning of the word entrepreneur comes from someone who uses an idea to create a business around it, and then that can scale not only by solving a problem, but by impacting a lot of other spheres, people, environment, etc. And one of the things that entrepreneurship has taught me is that you have to keep believing in yourself. You have to keep believing in the idea that it is that you're working on, and you have to keep believing in the impact that it is that you're making. It is a very humbling experience. Anyone who has the fortitude to take it up should definitely not think twice about doing that, because there's a sense of personal fulfillment that comes with it. And it's unlike any other experience that I've come that I've come across. So I would advise anyone wishing to become an entrepreneur or learn entrepreneurship to become an intrapreneur to believe in themselves and to believe in what it is that they think is their cause. Because I think that our causes come to us, we don't go to them.
Excellent. I like that very much. And as we are approaching Mandela Month, let us also try to surprise those who tell us it can't be done by actually doing it. I think this is an excellent way to go. Any final words from you, Pontsho?
Well, I think that we should be quite open-minded in how we see the world and step out of our comfort zones a little bit from time to time, just so we can empathize. Because once we do that, we will be able to impact the world a lot more. That's what I think.
Excellent. I think that is a great message. Colleagues, we have been in conversation with Pontsho Moletsane, a name you will remember because clearly he is destined for great things, and a story about somebody who has carried a spirit of innovation perhaps before he could spell that word, and is living it out and walking a journey and carrying people along with him in exactly the way we want to see. Pontsho, thank you so much. Thank you for this chat, and thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you, Dhesigen. The honor and pleasure is all mine. I actually wouldn't have accelerated my growth personally, my startup's growth, and my professional development had it not been for all the interactions that I've had with the Water Research Commission. I think that also is a demonstration of how the state can be involved in fast tracking a lot of the solutions that we need so that we can have the world become better.